Hi, hello. Today I'll be talking about the movie Lost in Translation while drawing a scene from it. If you haven't seen it by now, just go watch it and come back. I promise you it's worth your time, cause I'll be heavily talking about its plot and themes, and you'll get a better understanding of it. I don't want to spoil the fun. Lost in Translation is a 2003 comedy drama film written and directed by Sofia Coppola, who, fun fact, at the time of filming the movie was together with Spike Jonze, the director of Her. The movies are 10 years apart, but they both are inspired by the relationship of the directors. The movie stars Bill Murray as a middle-aged actor, Bob Harris, who befriends college graduate Scarlett Johansson, in a Tokyo hotel. The movie explores themes of loneliness, insomnia, existential ennui, and culture shock against the backdrop of a modern Japanese city. Bob is this famous actor that has a deal with a Japanese whiskey label, Suntory, and Charlotte is a philosophy graduate that accompanied her husband, a celebrity photographer, to Japan. Both of them seem to be having this immense void in them that seemingly can't be filled. Charlotte is uncertain about her marriage life and choices that she made, while Bob also has a demanding lifestyle where he grew apart from his family, not even being able to remember his son's birthday. Basically, a midlife crisis. But not really. They're both drawn to each other, and after their first meeting, they spend the rest of the movie together discovering and enjoying Japan. I honestly had a really hard choice to make between two scenes that I wanted to draw. The most important and recognizable scene, where the two share a bed together and eventually fall asleep, while having the most heartwarming chat, or the scene where Bob carries Charlotte to bed after she fell asleep in the cab after the night out in Tokyo. I'll argument my choice at the end of the video. This movie can be mistaken for a love story, which I did after my first viewing. However, upon rediscovering it, it had quite a few comedic moments that heavily relied on the lost in translation aspect. Alright, well, it is a love story, but not a cheesy and cliché one that you would expect. The movie relies on Bob's and Charlotte's relationship and feelings that they're developing for each other after all, but we're shown with Bob's discomfort on women's objectification and genuine care he develops for her, which is not surprising at all. You're dealing with a 17-year-old Scarlett Johansson. Yep, she was 17. Even though we have all these romantic aspects that the movie is built around, we are forced to read between the lines and empathize with Bob's and Charlotte's state. Both are found with insomnia and are overthinking their state of lives and can't seem to find happiness or enjoy anything until they find each other and rediscover joy. Instead of understanding the bigger picture, they first must learn how to enjoy the little things. Maybe that's what it's all about. Suddenly, watching wacky Japanese shows isn't as boring as it initially was. Loneliness and disconnectivity are overtaking their lives and they are found in this limbo state. They're alone and unseen, emotionally isolated and doomed to be lost. The setting makes that perfectly clear, being captured in a hotel in a foreign land, Japan being the most alien experience a person can have and therefore a perfect setting for this movie. And speaking of Japan, it's beautifully represented, from the traditional shrines and temples to the bustling nightlife that guides our protagonists through their journey. The city itself, Tokyo, is a character. Sofia Coppola is writing this cinematic love letter to the city. It's perfectly serving the melancholic look of the movie, accompanied by its muted colors. The movie would not have worked if it were located somewhere else. It is a reflection of what Charlotte and Bob are feeling. The movie has these long scenes of Charlotte wandering around the city, without any dialogue, this mesmerizing emptiness that evokes the feeling of depression and loneliness. Same goes for Bob, that is mostly found in the lounge area of the hotel, and even when surrounded by people or crowds, the camera lingers on them, showing this immense uncertainty, sadness, disappointment, angst, And I could go on and on. But I'll be identifying three keywords that are the core of the movie, starting with angst. Without a doubt, the movie explores the philosophical ideals of a happy life that is expected by the circumstances our protagonists live in. However, Charlotte and Bob are not feeling it anymore. They are found with this void that can't be filled until they finally meet. Angst is a Germanic word that translates to fear. In the mid-19th century, it became associated with a specific kind of existential dread, the kind of dread that Bob and Charlotte go through. Due to its successful career, Bob is rather associated with a brand than a person, losing himself in his marriage and life as well. Charlotte is also lost in her marriage, always questioning herself what to do with her life and hating on what she thought she was meant to do, which is writing. While anxiety and angst are often interchangeable, anxiety foregrounds a feeling of suffering, also present in angst, while angst foregrounds dissatisfaction, a complaint about the way the world is. None of the characters are particularly scared or worried. It's rather a simple human condition that fills them with a sense of nothingness, that buries itself in their minds and disrupts their peace, being one of the main causes of our protagonist's insomnia. You've heard me mention the term existential ennui before, which was the themes of the movie. Ennui is simply the French word for boredom, and it also translates to annoy. This trait is particularly found in Charlotte's character, that is due to her husband that only remarks her bad behavior and seems to have more chemistry with other people. The term was predominant in the 18th century, appearing in European Romanticism, popular with young people at the time who had the feeling that the promises of the French Revolution had gone unfulfilled. They took on an attitude of lethargic disappointment, a preoccupation with the fundamental emptiness of existence. Similar to Charlotte, who was disappointed by her marriage and life in general, not being heard by her loved ones, strengthened her emptiness of existence. And last term I want to throw at you is Weltschmerz, that literally translates to world pain. It's another version of ennui. It describes a world weariness felt from a perceived mismatch between the ideal image of how the world should be with how it really is. While we don't see the visible frustration on our characters' faces, there's a clear dissatisfaction with their respective lives. None of them seem to comprehend their emotional sadness because the world expects them to be happy. They got every piece of the puzzle for their happiness. Weltschmerz is present in Bob's midlife crisis and also takes a hold of Charlotte, not knowing what to do next with her life. Though Weltschmerz and ennui are pretty close synonyms, ennui foregrounds the indifference brought on by the world weariness. It can also be a term of more simple boredom. And Weltschmerz foregrounds the pain or sadness. There is perhaps a greater sense of an intense longing in Weltschmerz. Part of the pain is that the sufferer really wants the world to be otherwise. Both of our characters share the same trait of wanting the world to be otherwise. Our characters are longing for happiness. I gotta say, it deeply saddens me that this term Weltschmerz is so underutilized in general. Due to it being a German word, sounds more grim, so the English language favored the French word ennui more. I just gotta give more credit to it, because it perfectly encapsulates all these complex feelings that the characters are going through, the pains of existence, the pain of the world. But all these existential pains seem to be absent the moment they find each other, starting with just a couple of glances, a smile, then gradually building to them sharing their nights together, and eventually a bed. None of this is billed as a weirdly cheesy, sexually induced romantic experience. Sofia Coppola builds this caring friendship between them, highlighting the missing puzzle piece in them that the other one is holding. They complete each other at this point in their lives. feeling their emptiness that was consuming them thus far. It's honestly beautiful and genius storytelling. The age difference and the profession plays a key role. Bob being a successful aged actor that has been married for a long time, and Charlotte is this young graduate that can't seem to find her footing in the world and is dragged by her current marriage. Bob is being filled with Charlotte's sort of juvenile way of living that is reciprocated in Bob's flirty and sarcastic humorous dialogue. And Charlotte also gets an answer to her worries, that it will all be okay, everything will be fine. Things are complicated, but as long as you're doing what feels right, everything will be just fine. That's what each of them needed to hear and feel. And of course it was inevitable that they'd fall in love with each other. Charlotte even being disappointed that Bob had an affair with the singer, resulting in their passive-aggressive behavior towards each other, acting like an actual married couple. The whole argument being concluded in them realizing that their time is better spent enjoying each other's company before they separate forever. A real mature, self-aware and heartbreaking relationship that can only be admired. Okay, well, I'm not pretending that I'm an omniscient movie critic, but this movie is truly amazing in categorizing and showcasing the struggles of overthinking one's existence. This feeling of uncertainty and emptiness that I am too familiar with. And it ties it all together neatly with a love story that takes the backseat, at least for me. I'll be leaving some articles and movie essays in the description that I got inspired from and are elaborating on more aspects of the movie. So, I ended up choosing this scene because it was too important to overlook. All this time spent knowing that I'll be making a video about the movie, I was more than certain that I'll be drawing the scene where Bob carries Charlotte, even highlighting it in the last video. It was the scene that got burned into my head after the first time I saw the movie, and I felt like I was doing a disservice to myself if I wouldn't tribute that with my drawing. In fact, I would be doing a disservice to the movie if I had chosen any other scene than this one. Let's be honest, it's the core of the movie. Everything is spelled out, so there's no real reason for me to break it down any further. It's literally the whole movie in a 6-minute sequence, by Charlotte gradually getting closer to Bob, by Bob sharing his wisdom, and by the way they finally find peace and manage to fall asleep, their characters being also reflected in their respective sleeping positions. Charlotte, this young girl that is ready to embrace the uncertainty of life, and Bob, a caring middle-aged husband, rejuvenated and at peace with his life. I'm actually curious of what you thought of the ending, what the movie made you feel. Maybe you have some personal experiences that the movie made you ponder, and if the movie made you understand some feelings better. And let me know of what you thought Bob whispered in Charlotte's ear at the end of the movie. Thank you for watching. Next time, I'll be drawing a marriage story.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Harris.
Thanks. This is hard. I could feel at the time there was no way of knowing. Fallen leaves in the night, who can say where they're blowing? As free as the wind, hopefully learning why the sea on the tide has no way of turning. More than this, you know there's nothing more than this. tell me one thing more than this.